This is great. You know, here in California we have medicinal marijuana, and weed is now legal for recreation use in Colorado and in Washington. And the California Democratic Party has passed a resolution this past weekend asking for, or now backing, legalizing weed in this state altogether, recreational, medicinal, the whole thing. The problem here is that the feds are completely against this, and our President Barack Obama, who has sort of always been this kind of cool, you know, there's stories of him smoking some weed and he jokes about it at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner. He's still raiding legal weed dispensaries here in California now. So I want to start with talking about Obama here. Is this just really bizarre about him personally, where he's made it clear he has smoked weed and does not have a problem with smoking weed, and yet for some reason still is ordering the feds to raid medicinal marijuana dispensaries here in California?
I've never understood it. I've just never understood. I've never understood it under any president, and especially now when states are one by one making it legal. I don't. If you spend $1 and 20 minutes on this, that is an enormous waste of resources.
So does it make it seem like this doesn't have to do with him and it has to do with the bigger sort of government and the way that they're
it's like a states' rights for federal rights.
Yeah, exactly. That somehow, even though personally he may, I don't want to give him a pass on this one though. This seems like something that's so obviously he's personally for and yet doesn't do what needs to be done.
Do you think it's possible that he's so worried about his legacy now that he doesn't want to be known as, like, you know, the president who was so left? Because everyone gives him that. They call him like a socialist Nazi, which doesn't make sense. It's like you're using two like antonyms or something. I don't know. Either way, I think that sometimes there could be a little bit of fear with him that he doesn't want to be known as the president that was like, sure, have weed and, you know, be so liberal.
The weed-loving, gay-loving.
That's what I'm saying, because he's come out, you know, finally he's come out in support of, you know, gay measures, and he's come out in support of a lot of other things that people associate with being liberal. And he's raised the debt a lot, and I just don't know if he wants to be that guy who everyone goes was the most liberal president in history, because he wants to seem maybe a little bit more moderate.
I think that's possible, except the part that doesn't quite jive with me on that is he could just say nothing about this and just not order the feds. This comes from the feds, so it's his administration. He could just do nothing and let California do whatever they're doing.
Super to the right and go, these are states' rights things, which would appease the rights and appease conservatives. And if they say anything about it, he'd have to go, well, look at what you say. You say you want to be able to control abortion in your own state. You want to control all these things in your own state. Your states' rights people, if you're conservative, states' rights, and just drop the microphone and leave it alone.
Right, but it's like with abortion and with gay rights. They only believe in states' rights when the government is not doing what they want them to do. So what do you think in terms of just the battle between the state and the Fed here? Should a state have more power to control what their state's laws are?
Yeah, absolutely, but only in the things that I agree with.
Precisely. At least you're intellectually honest.
Because you do get a little bit upset when you hear that a certain state, at least for me personally, like, oh, they're banning abortion or there's something. Then I'm like, how can they do that? The federal government needs to step in and say they can't do that because we have the right. And I'm like, well, we don't really have a constitutional right to abortion, so maybe that is a states' rights thing, and I will get heated about that, so I understand. But that being said, I don't know if marijuana itself is making people in other states so angry that they're going, oh, California, make sure they don't get their weed. I don't know if that's as much as an emotional thing.
That's the part that seems bizarre to me, because I can understand the abortion issue is a life or death issue regardless of what side you're on. But the weed thing, this is basically something that people do in the privacy of their own home that does not cause any violence or car accidents. There's no study, you know, you get giddy, you eat food, all the hack jokes we can do about that.
There are people outside protesting many marijuana things the way they protest like abortion clinics and things like that. It's not as heated, it's not as personal. Even though it's a highly personal choice, it's not as personal of an issue, it doesn't inflame people. So I don't understand. Maybe the DEA needs to keep going for some reason, or they need a hobby. To me, it doesn't make sense either why this federal...
Could this be a money thing? Could this purely be a money thing that somehow by keeping weed illegal, the government in a weird way is making money? You know, if we really would get it to some conspiracy level because of smoking some weed, maybe it has something to do with you keep the war on drugs going because they're getting back-end money somehow in the Fed, something like that.
They definitely are, definitely.
Oh,
There's
so that wasn't that good?
Oh, no, there has to be. There absolutely has to be some sort of financial incentive to keep this going on. There has to be some sort of deal with whoever's running the drugs versus the government. But there's something going on. Who knows what it is? But if it's gone past what people care about, and the whole public pretty much is like, we don't care who smokes weed, leave people alone, there's got to be financial things going on.
Yeah, you buy the
moral is grow your own, right? Just keep it a backyard operation.
Right.
Keep it in your own community.
Which actually in California now, if you are licensed to do it, you can grow your own, and just hope, I guess, that the feds won't bust in on that for some, because they can always figure out some reason to do something.
Right.